In case you didn't catch last month's Qtalk, here's what you missed.
I have to tell you, though, the day that we went for the marriage license, it was amazing. It was really...
Was it great?
Yeah.
Was it a gorgeous day out?
Actually, thank God it wasn't sun blaring, because we were outside and just the line was snaked. We got there like an hour and a half before.
But it was just a normal marriage license line? It wasn't just the gays?
Actually, the funny part about it there were some straight people there to support the gay people.
I love that.
Which was great.
That's great.
The thing is that when you were married to a man, everything you took for granted, right?
Yes. Jesus.
So I have no idea what it meant anymore.
I made some bad choices.
So we have a friend of the show.
I did.
He's been here actually like this is third time, right?
Yes, he's the Alec Baldwin of our Qtalk.
It's true.
He's our Alec Baldwin, the most appeared guest.
It's like unbelievable. But
we have an expert, ladies and gentlemen.
I know, a very nice expert.
Where are my questions for the expert?
I have no idea. Okay. So he's head of the non-traditional family and estates law division of the law firm of, now I always get this wrong, Albert W. Chinese. Oh, an associate.
Chinese.
This is the first time I've got it right, okay? Also, he's executive director of the wedding party, which is phenomenal. So he's going to talk a little bit about that up here. And also the founder of timeforfamilies.com. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Anthony Brown.
Tony!
Oh, he's got like a jacket on now.
You look nice.
I know. You kind of favor him too. I like that. Yes, he's a very hot man.
What have you been drinking? He doesn't look a thing like Alec Baldwin.
Huh?
What?
He was hosting the show.
All right, don't push it, Tony.
So how's Gary, your husband?
Good. Gary's home with Nicholas.
Very good. How's Nicholas doing?
He's doing good. He's
Parents
doing good.
and everything.
Tony had a show on CNN. Gary and Tony have a baby or get a baby. Yep. Did you see the special about adopting a child? It was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
So he's a reality star too.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. It was so funny.
Yes.
Frank and I were walking down the street one day, coming out from coffee. We were just like, just woke up out of bed. Cameras. We were like, Frank was like, oh my God. Really? No.
Yeah, it was interesting having a camera crew with you for 17 months.
Yeah, 17 months?
It was a long time. Through the whole process and then up through Nicholas's adoption. And, it was good. It was ultimately amazing. It was really
It was a great special.
I was
on it too, by
phenomenal.
the way. Yeah. I was. They showed a clip from Qtalk, so I've been on CNN. Okay, let me ask you this, because we have tons of questions. But because we're talking about you and your baby, what are some of the differences now with married couples as compared to their children? I mean, with the children, does it give us more rights or more protection?
It does. It actually does. But before I even talk about that, I just want to say that I think the victory in New York was the definition of a grassroots effort, a grassroots victory.
It was amazing.
I mean, we had the governor on our side, we had very strategic members of the Senate and the Assembly, and everybody did a great job, but probably everybody in this room picked up the phone and made a call or did something. So, yeah, I mean, we all deserve a big round of applause for this, because I think it absolutely was brutal.
It's unbelievable.
It was huge.
It was
amazing. It was the first time that I have felt a Gay Pride New York where it was completely about celebration.
Absolutely.
It wasn't about fighting for something that we don't have. So it was amazing.
It was definitely
amazing. But I do want to answer your question. Good. Because as far as children... as far as children are concerned, I mean, there's certainly tangible benefits we're going to talk about, but the intangible benefit of having your classmates who have either married parents or divorced parents, to be able to have the ability to marry and to have your own parents be married, I think that's really important, just for a sense of equality and a sense of fitting in for the kids. But some of the real tangible benefits of marriage, unfortunately, come if something bad has happened. When you're married, you are protected. After death, you're protected. Right. There's hopefully, if we take down DOMA, there'll be federal Social Security benefits that'll be available. But certainly, you're the intestate heir of your spouse, so the other guardian of your child will not go without. Right. And also, this sounds very strange, but one of the really important benefits of marriage is divorce. Because, yeah, no.
I can testify
so can I ask
to
you
that.
a couple of questions?
The great thing about getting married young is you get divorced young.
But the issue is, there was a time in my practice when I would have people coming to me who had done everything wrong. One partner made all of their money in cash and gave it all to the other partner who put it in their bank account that was only in their name. The other partner was the biological parent, and they never did a second parent adoption. And basically, when the relationship faltered, this woman was out on the streets. There was nothing to protect her.
Yes.
And with marriage, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. The courts step in, and the courts make sure that each partner at least is protected through the process, but then oftentimes afterwards. So it's sort of a societal safety net, basically, and that protects children as well.
Right.
But this brings up an interesting little piece, though. So this is in New York. What if we decide to move to Florida?
That is
or even just traveling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
and that's the $10,000 question, because literally, if you don't live in or travel through one of the 6 states, or the District of Columbia, or the 2, I think, Indian reservations where marriage is
that
legal,
just happened actually.
then you really are not married, and that's why you need. You're not married under that state's law.
Because it's not a federal. It's not a federal.
Because there's 2 parts of the Defense of Marriage Act. The second part says that no state has to honor another state's marriage, even if it's valid in that other state. The third part says the federal government only defines marriages between a man and a woman. So now there's a bunch of litigation that's going up through the federal courts that is dealing with the third section, the federal definition of marriage. But I know it makes me do that too. But if you are traveling through Florida, you need to, and this
Run!
is
No.
first of all, why? No, no, that's Mississippi.
Fort Lauderdale.
I'm sorry if anybody's from Mississippi, but no, you need to travel with your medical power of attorney, your living will, a hospital visitation directive. If you have kids, you need to travel with your adoption order. Really? And I honestly would travel. Gary and I travel with our marriage license, our Canadian marriage license. So literally, it's a pain in the ass.
But that's
a really good question,
That's a good idea, though.
It
just
is.
to be covered.
Can we do electronic copies work? Can I bring it on my iPad?
That does work. However, now there's a really horrible case. I don't know if you heard about this case. A woman was on the Rosie Cruise with her partner and 2 kids. And they had all the documentation, but they left it at home. And her partner had either a stroke or an aneurysm in port in Miami. And they took her off. And Lambda sued because they wouldn't let the partner or the kids go up and see her. And the partner died, and they never got a chance to say goodbye. And it was a horrible, horrible, horrible story. And it was an even more horrible decision, because they came back and said hospitals don't have the right to allow anyone to visit anyone. But if she had had those documents with her and was able to give them to a nurse or an administrator and actually have something that had signatures and notaries and, then I don't know whether it would have been
But they don't have to honor it, but most likely they would.
And that was a decision that came down because in my opinion, because it was the case that it was with the facts that it was. They're going to let people visit, but basically it set a precedent that hospitals can say, you know what? No, you don't get to go to ICU. So it was really a negative.
I have a question on that. Does that mean for even straight couples?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it cuts across. But
Jeremy, our correspondent, is also a physician's assistant.
Exactly.
But
really?
That's the thing about and this is one of the intangibles about marriage that I love. I love introducing Gary as my husband, because there's no confusion about our relationship.
Right.
And after a while, we were together. We got married on our 16th anniversary, and it took us a while to go, this is my husband, Gary.
I don't know if I've introduced you as my husband yet.
Would you like to do it for the first time?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Frank LaRocca, my husband.
Yes!
Look, he's turning purple over there. You know that, right?
But you know what? If a straight couple, whether they're married or not, if they say, my husband is up there, they're going to let that person go through. But it's going to remain to be seen whether that works the same. I mean, using just that word, the husband or wife word, it's such an educational tool. And I think it's one of the reasons why things happened in New York the way that they did. But that's I think, a very powerful benefit of marriage.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's like, because all these things running through my mind. So when we got the marriage license, right, they asked us if we wanted to change our names. So
Right. Well, when you introduced him, I was going to ask about that.
yeah. So now here's the interesting part about it. So if you travel anywhere else but New York, is that new name right? We didn't change our names.
That's a really good question. And I believe that the answer is going to depend on whether you actually had a court order to change your name. Before marriage was legal in New York, I had a lot of lesbian couples who were having kids together, and they wanted both of their names to be the same name as their child. Yeah, exactly. So I did a lot of court-ordered name changes. Now those, because of full faith and credit, will be honored everywhere because they went through the court procedure, they had it done
It's like
the way that it would be done in any other state, and so another state would have to honor that. But now the issue is coming up where we should be able to just go to DMV and show our marriage license and say, no, I'm taking my husband's name or I'm taking my wife's name, and be able to change our license.
Right.
See, this is what I mean.
But it hasn't. That's an issue that hasn't necessarily come up. But if you do go to a state that's a non-recognition state, then it's going to be a much smaller chance that that would be honored.
Now, but isn't it all, or is it or is it not, also kind of a matter of who you're dealing with too? In other words, if you're at the DMV or you're at the hospital and you get some asshole stickler, isn't it sometimes
Absolutely.
just that kind of thing, a personality of...
Well, and the thing about it, because I mean, I'm sure you've heard about this. There have been quite a few city clerks around New York State that have refused and resigned to sign a marriage certificate for gay couples.
Which is, yeah.
And I'm like, if you take
Wow.
the job and the laws have changed, you need to like do your job.
Or
You know what I
resign.
mean?
Resign's
Or
fine.
resign,
Fuck
yeah.
'em.
Because I'm sure if they really looked hard, they could find something else to be religiously upset about.
Really? Go home and just keep that grudge going. Listen, I have a question. When you were on our show last time, you talked about the 1,300 different benefits or differences between a civil union and a marriage. So, can you give me a ballpark now? How has that changed? With the 1,300, now that
Or
it's
has it
marriage,
changed?
or has it? Do we have 650 now?
No,
or?
it has changed because all of those references were references to spouse or husband or wife in the statutes. And now in New York statutes, all references to spouses, husbands, or wives are now available for same-sex couples also.
Oh, that's good. 1,300.
So yeah,
What?
that's a good number.
Yes,
But is
we
it?
can applaud
But
that.
is it really the whole 1,300 though?
Just Franz.
Absolutely, it's not
Franz,
the
it's
federal
like-
benefits.
You sure it's
not
not
the federal
1,299?
benefits. No. It's
But
that one, non-gay one.
So now, do we get to, or is it advisable, Mr. Lawyer, to file taxes jointly?
That's a really good question.
Oh, taxes.
And this, yeah, this is where all of our accountants are going to be making a little bit more money this year, because a lot of people feel that they're married and they want to accurately reflect their marriage, and they may actually take a benefit from filing jointly. So they would file jointly in the state, but they'd also have to file a dummy separate return. And they would have to do the same federally, because the numbers on the returns relate to one another. And also, even if you were to file separately but married, you're still filing as a married person in New York. So it's getting very complicated, and my answer to you is, I hope you have a good CPA. Because they're going to be running the numbers for you, and they're going to tell you.
You're costing me this one.
Hey, wait, but one of the best things about marriage is that there's an unlimited transfer of assets between couples, or between spouses, both during the marriage and after the marriage.
Okay, so this is the question for...
This is the big one.
This is the big one. So that's in New York State, but that's not federally, though.
No, it's not. Now, the New York State estate tax ceiling is $1 million. So right now, before you were married, you could give up to $1 million without it being taxed. Now, you can give as much as you want to.
All your millions.
All your millions. All of those homes. The problem is the federal estate tax ceiling is in flux. Right now it's at $5 million. But in a couple of years it's going to go back down to $1 million if nobody does anything about it. And then that's when our marriages are going to be, you're going to see a lot more lawsuits. Because that's where the dichotomy lasts. That's where the federal and the state don't jive.
See, for those of you that don't know, that once this law passed in New York, it literally doubled the amount of gay people that had the right to marry just by New York passing, which is a wonderful thing.
In the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
In the whole country, it doubled it. But that was the thing, because my whole question is that now that this has happened, what does that really mean? It's great for the community, but what does that really mean to us as individuals? You know what I mean?
You know what? I mean, I can give you some of the dry legal answers to that, but honestly, I think there's a sense of satisfaction. There's a sense of honesty in your relationship and honesty with others.
Right.
You are the intestate heir, so if you don't draft a will, which I highly don't recommend, then your spouse becomes the automatic recipient, your spouse and children if you have children. Also, there's something in New York called a notification requirement. If you die with a will, your closest living legal relative has to sign off on your will before it goes through probate. So a lot of older couples, I'm seeing a lot of older couples who've been together 30, 40 years, and they've dealt with their relationship quietly with their family. When I tell them about this notification requirement, and that because they're not married, their brother or their sister is going to have to get a copy of their will and sign off on it, they're like down on one knee proposing in my office.
Yeah, Tony.
It's amazing.
We have a question over here right along those lines, right?
Right. Is the passing of assets a federal or a state situation?
It's both.
So you'll be taxed in the state, not taxed
You'll
in the state.
not be taxed in the
But
state.
you'll be taxed federally?
Correct. If your assets are currently over $5 million.
Yeah,
yes.
well.
Yeah, they are.
Like everybody in the room.
And what if you don't have a will, though? If you just have the marriage certificate, but you don't have the will,
If
does
you
it
have
still
a marriage,
pass?
if you have a marriage certificate, your spouse is your closest living legal relative under the law, and now under the law of New York. So your spouse would be the person who inherits your estate.
And
Well, no, but probate law is all jurisdictionally from the state and from the county where the will is presented. So it's state law that handles
and
that.
Matt will be married November 13th, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And Jeremy, I think, Jeremy, you have a question too?
Yeah, I can't remember but like if you do a crime and your spouse can't testify against you, is that federal or state?
Yeah, there's this.
Jeremy's on the
Jeremy,
lam.
are you planning on
Shit.
some?
Yeah, no, that's interesting because that could be one of the test cases for recognition of another state, where a married couple from New York commits a crime in another state, and it is brought. Yes, spouses do not have to testify. It's a right of election. They have to choose not to, but they don't have to. They can't be compelled.
Now, because that doesn't say, because you said defense of marriage.
Well, if you're in federal court, I imagine you'd have to, you would have to do it, and if I were, put in that position, I would plead the fifth, I guess.
So you said defense of marriage they don't have to recognize out
One state does not, correct.
So say you're from New York, a straight couple, and they go to Florida
Correct.
and they commit a crime, can they be compelled to testify against them?
They could be compelled under the laws of that state. However, it's interesting when you look at the miscegenation laws when black people couldn't marry white people, that the cases that sort of slipped in and started to make the change, a lot of those cases were little issues like spousal testimony and probate stuff, like people who had died without wills, and in almost to a case, they all acknowledged and recognized the marriage, even though they were in states that did not have.
So
marriage
if Franz and Frank go to California and commit a crime, is that a way to get it pushed through California? So in other words, do you know what I mean? If they have to recognize you as a spouse, maybe that's what we should do.
I think there are more efficient ways of doing that.
Get the bus. We're all going. No.
See, exactly. But I
like
mean,
the way you think.
See,
you.
she's a sneaky little bugger. So, but it's actually a great thing in New York, but it really gives you a lot of confusion. Even because we started talking about like health insurance, like at work.
Yeah, and that's a really important issue because that before, I don't think a lot of people realized, before the law passed in New York, if your partner was on your health insurance, they would calculate the value of that benefit. They would tack it on to the employee's salary and tax you on the entire amount. Wow. So you were actually taxed for benefits that a heterosexual spouse would receive for free. Now, it's changed for state tax law purposes. So now the value of the state tax on that benefit is not The employee is not charged for the state portion of it. They're still charged for the federal portion of it, though.
But that's great. So just kind of wrapping it all up and stuff.
Yeah, give us
What are your like top 3 things that we have to watch out for, even though this has passed?
You know what? I'm going to tell you the top 3 things I think we have to work on.
Okay.
I think, number 1, we have to get a federal non-discrimination law in place. We have to be able to be comfortable in our jobs. And we also have to encourage other people to be as honest with their relationships with their friends and their family as we've been here in New York, because it really does make a difference. And I know, I was just down visiting our surrogate in the Bible Belt in southern Virginia.
Ooh,
and it
child.
is a different world down there. It's scary, and I see other gay people down there living incredibly closeted lives out of self-preservation. Right. And I understand that. And that's why I think we need to push for things like federal non-discrimination. We need to have the litigation strategy, which is going on now, ACLU, Lambda Legal, they're all doing really amazing work in federal court to get Section 3 of DOMA, the federal aspect of DOMA, taken down. But honestly, it has to be an education process. It has to be people talking to their friends and their family in these places and saying, hey, you know, I went to this show the other day and these guys had just gotten married and they were so happy and it was really cool, and the sky was still up there when we left. You know,
it's true. Well, I have to say, it's so funny at work, right? So my other job is in finance and everything. And my boss's boss, and my boss's boss's boss, the first thing they did when they heard it pass, they all called me, so when are you getting married? Which was great.
Great.
Which was great. And my boss is coming back from a vacation. She was like, if you don't have pictures, it's going to affect your
Don't come back
bonus.
to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
That's good.
So that's great. Tony, thank you so much
Thank you
for
guys,
being here.
always.
Ladies and
Thank you so
gentlemen, Mr. Anthony Brown.
Anthony.
Thank you so much. And whatever you do,
Keep on Q-talking.